The world is in a massive transition. Are you prepared? Hi, I'm Reverend Tracy L, and I am here to help you navigate through these uncharted waters. Many experts told me it was not possible to repair, regenerate, and restore my body. I proved them all wrong. Isn't it time for you to reclaim what is rightfully yours? If your answer is yes, then I invite you to join me while I will help you embrace the new earth and unlock your unlimited potential. Let's connect every Tuesday, 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, right here on the Tracy L Clark Show, as featured on Transformation Talk Radio. The old ways of connecting are done, so let's embrace together the new and unleash the superhuman within. Welcome back, everybody. I am so thrilled to have you here today. We have an incredible show and an incredible returning guest, so I'm so excited. A few things. I hope you got through June 21st because it's intense. A lot of people don't know that that is the big day that the dark and the light always merge. The dark has their rituals, the light have their rituals. You can let your imagination go, but the light did overrun it. So it might feel a little heavy for you guys for the next 3 weeks, but it's also why I planned today's show the way I did, because there's things you need to start focusing on and you need to start really paying attention to. So we want to make sure, because we always like to do that for you, that you are very much in alignment with what's going on. Two quick announcements. The June 14th event is an evening event. It's on the website, tracylclark.com. Healthy, wealthy, and wise. Healthy, wealthy, and wise. Yes, 2 hours. And don't forget to join us on the Telegram. We've got everything going on there. Every day there's new stuff. So you have to try to keep up, but it is the place where we can go and share with you what's happening. So I'm so excited today that we have Jeremy Wiseman, and he's very wise. I like his last name. I always tell him this from Guildhall Wealth. We are talking about gold and silver today, but we're also going to be talking about different things within the economy, because one of the things we were just saying before air that I have noticed before we jumped on here is everybody's focus seems to be very geared to what people are doing on with medicines or what's going on around the world, which has been really also a big distraction from people understanding what's going on in their money or the markets or what's happening. And so Jeremy and I have a lot to talk about today. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you so much. Great to be back. Great to chat with you.
Oh,
I know we haven't had a chance to really catch up lately, so this is the opportunity.
It is. And I know my listeners, they love it when you come on. My community loves it when you're here with us, because you have so many little nuggets that I really believe are being lost right now. And in it's like people, and they've said it to me, they're like, why is gold being shunned really over the last, when did they start doing that? The summer of last year? I think they started to really push it off into the corner. Why do you think that's happening?
Oh, it wasn't just last summer. It's been the
It's been
entire
forever.
time.
No,
It's been forever, and it's changed over the years, like how they've approached what they're going to say about gold. Thinking back to, let's say, 2005, 6, they would always just say, oh, it's not going anywhere, it's not going up. And it was just kind of this, we don't like it, we're not going to, we are going to be against this product. And at that, although interestingly enough, at that time you did have people in the gold industry on places like CNBC talking about the metals. Of course, after 2008, none of them got invited back ever again, because they were the ones saying, look, there's going to be a big upheaval here. There's going to be a pullback, a crash in the stock market. And so they stopped going. What's nice, though, is that since that time, there's been such a proliferation on YouTube, and the information is it's so constant. For someone like myself who's been in it for a long time, I have to go in waves of paying attention to it, because a lot of it can be repetitive, and yes, there's a lot of great new stuff happening. But now, I think going back to what we were just talking about after the show, before the show, is that it seems that they just don't want to talk about precious metals. only unless there's a knee-jerk response in the market where gold starts rising because the US dollar is dropping, where they'll say, okay, it's time to do that. But I haven't seen much in the way of mainstream talking about it, period, not even in a disparaging way.
No, well, it's also seems like there's only one thing ever talked about in mainstream right now. It's always one thing. That's it. Like one thing, nothing else. And it's interesting because energetically, when I look at gold and silver, and I do want you to talk about, I believe it's called the Basel. Is it Basel 3? Is that what it's
Yeah,
called? Okay.
Basel 3. Yeah.
So, but when I look at it energetically, you can see that this is a big part of gold, especially a big part of new systems coming out and things changing and transitioning. And like I said, I sometimes wonder, is it just we know they manipulate it and we know it's been moved to the side, but is there a point when, do you believe there's a point where it needs to be released and unleashed to restabilize or change things that we have going on in the world economically right now?
I definitely think so. That it will definitely be released. The question is really, will it be released from the powers that are controlling it right now, or will it be run over by the likes of, let's say, the silver squeeze or Wall Street bets, where there's such a large amount of people coming into the market on their own, um, pulling physical product off the market, and there's so much. And the crazy thing about this market is that you don't know what's happening. You
No,
can't judge what's happening by the price. You
no.
do have to dig under. And even if it's just, again, scanning through articles, let's say on Silver Doctors, just scanning through, seeing what's going on. Like I was listening to one on Arcadia, which is a great channel for it. And they were talking about industries are starting to bypass the comics. Right. I know
Wow.
we're going right into it here, but
Yeah, no,
yeah,
please.
they're deciding, you know what? We've used the comics as a source of physical product for years,
Yeah.
but there's so much shaking out at the comics right now that they've decided, let's just go straight to the mines. Now it's interesting because industries can go to the mine, or they could also go to a refiner, but a
Yeah.
lot of them have gone to the comics. So now they're not going to go to the comics. They're basically saying, there's just too much going on at the comics. We won't call it a rigged casino just yet, but we'll just say, look, it's too difficult to get our product. There's too much pushback. Let's go somewhere else. We need to, Samsung, we need our products put out into the marketplace. We need to get that physical product. And it's not just silver, it's also other commodities. So they're bypassing the comics. This is just another nail in the coffin, excuse me, another nail in the coffin of the price suppression, because you need participants. And if you have one less participant, it doesn't matter. And also the issue with keeping the price tamped down, as the industry insiders would call it, is that it is dependent on industry. That as long as the industry was getting their physical product and not asking questions, then they can continue to do what they're doing, because Sony doesn't care as long as they're getting their product. Well, what if Sony isn't involved? What if
Yeah.
they don't care because they're not buying from you anymore?
Yeah.
Right? So that could be one of these things. But I do ultimately think that if you are the first person at the printing press, if you have the printing press in your backyard, you know what gold is. You know that it is real money.
Yeah.
It's like JP Morgan said, gold and silver are money, everything else is credit. It's like rule number one, if you're going to be a central banker, gold is money. So if that's the case, then they know that gold is money, and they know that what they're dealing with is their own rigged system. So we'll see. I think that they will either want to position themselves where when the price goes crazy, they're making all the money, right? That's something that Ted, what's his name? There's an analyst that talks about this all the time, and he basically says, look, JP Morgan has all the silver, so they're ready. When the price
Yeah.
goes up, they're the ones who are going to make the money. I believe that's true to a certain extent, that they will let it rise when they're ready.
They will. Well, they do call gold God's money, right? I don't know why
Yeah.
they call it that, but they do. I guess, maybe because in energy world, it's interesting they call it God's money, but in the energy world, gold is that higher, that I think that's what they do, but it's highest connection to the highest power, plus it, the conduit that it is. So it's not surprising we find in the earth, just like many other precious metals. What do you in your space, this is where you live and breathe each and every day. What are your thoughts or your perceptions with gold and silver when you look at the rest of this year? And it's been crazy year. I don't think I said 2021 would be the year that everybody would remember as ultimate crazy and the shift of times. But when you look at this as an industry, and what do you see? What goes through your brain over the rest of this year when it comes to precious metals?
When it comes to precious metals, I think the one thing that's not on my mind is price.
Yeah.
Personally, I really don't, and it's not just because I'm a dealer, but also because I'm a client. I've had precious metals for years. I really don't care about the price at all. I just kind of look at everything else that's happening, and I wonder, where are you supposed to hide? It just feels like every day you're one step closer to, do I want to be putting my money at risk at this point? Now, I have to say, I'm surprised by some people that I speak to that are so cavalier about their money these days. Before 2008, I saw a lot of people being cavalier with their money.
Yeah.
After 2008, I thought people were a lot more protective of their money. But I see a lot of rampant speculation. I also see a lot of people, what we would say, lulled to sleep,
Yeah.
that, oh, the stock market's just going to keep going, that things are just going to continue along their merry way. Now, there's a whole section of people that have woken up, right? They've all looked at the debts. They've said, this is completely unsustainable. Even I can see that, and I don't have to watch the business news to
There's
understand
many
that.
things so going on in the world right now where you wake up and you're like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm looking at
Oh,
the stats, and then they're like, but those still, most of them are over here. I'm like, one of the
yeah.
things I want to say that it's really interesting when you talk about gold and silver, and I like to use this, I've been using it a lot lately. And you can see the debt bubble, right? You see the debt clock, you see it, I see it. You got the gold and silver, you have different solutions you can look at. And so I always say the universe gives you these solutions. And there's that old joke, I'll say it really quickly, but where the guy's in the water and he's like, God, give me a bone, like save me.
Yeah.
Right? And the boat comes by and he rejects all three boats and he dies. And God says,
Yeah.
well, I sent you 3 fucking boats. You didn't really take them, right?
That's right.
So he's like, what? And what happens if people don't understand is you can see this debt, and basically they hear a little bit about gold and silver. And I say, that's something that you need to go look at and say, well, wait a minute, maybe I don't understand it, but I should probably understand it because the debt doesn't make sense. How long can we keep going? Like, I was at the store yesterday with my daughter, and I was in a pretty big name store, and the shelves were very empty. And I actually was talking to my boyfriend at night, and he said, oh, I was in this other big name store. He goes, shelves were really empty too. I noticed that. And I'm like, you can see that things are broken in the supply chain. You can see there's all this debt. And then it's like, okay, you're getting the nudges of gold and silver to look at them as possibilities, that if you don't take that action, when people are, oh, I should have bought some gold and silver, what was I thinking? Because we know, like you said, that the supply chains are wrecked, they are broken right now. And so what does that do for these manufacturers? I have to say, maybe it's some of the stuff I subscribe to, but I get a lot of news because I like to look at everything in the world, how people can't keep up with their manufacturing of their electronics, of their computers, of like, there's so many things. And right there, silver. And, they do use gold in some of that stuff. It's more expensive for sure. So I find it really interesting that there's been this narrative that just, they keep pushing it down, pushing it down, pushing it down. Cause I believe they're just hoarding it for themselves because they don't want you to know that there's insurance. They don't want you to know that everything is, and like, it's just like, they don't want you to know. And this is what drives me nuts with the mainstream narratives, is they don't want you to know because they're doing everything over here for themselves. What do you think?
I mean, I think you absolutely nailed it. I think you're absolutely 100% correct. They do not want people to have a hiding spot. They do not want people to protect their wealth, especially if you start looking at the overall central bank system. You know, they're trying to get the Great Reset off the ground, right? I don't know how well it's working. I mean, even things like, you know,
Yeah.
even things like, I don't want to go too off on the tangent, but, you know, like the Trudeau came out the other day, like yabbering along about vaccine passports, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, just because you say it doesn't mean it's going to happen. There's all these lawyers that are gonna lawyer up and say, you know, you can't do that, right? So just because, you know, and that to me is what's
But
really
again, they
irritating me
plant
about
the
everything.
seed, right? They plant the seed. So then everyone goes, oh, I got to do this because I'm going to try. But it's like, well, no, it hasn't, because in other countries it's been pulled down. And this is what I think they keep doing. And they do it in our money, right? Like we're so on the same
Yeah.
page. You and I. This is one thing you guys have done. Jeremy and I are like so on the same page as what's going on in the world. And it's true. It's like to shift your narrative to make you go, well, it has happened, right? Like I think it's like, they're doing that with gold and silver. They're dumbing down the narrative. They're moving it over. Because like you said, what happens now? This may be, I don't know if you can answer this question. Okay, say I buy an ounce of gold.
Okay.
Let's say, I haven't asked you this question, but say I buy an ounce of gold. Well, how does anyone know if I took that ounce of gold and now I gave it to my niece and I don't have it anymore?
I'm glad you asked that question.
I want to know, because you know what, people are like, oh, but they're going to come after your gold. I said, well, what do they know? I've like, how many times have I bought gold necklaces or gold bracelets, and then literally I'm like, I want to give that to my daughter. Or I want to give that to, like, now I don't own it anymore.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, well, welcome to Indian culture, right? I mean, that's how they work it too, right? So the thing is that this is one of the arguments that the crypto sphere loves. Oh, it's decentralized. Guess what? Gold's decentralized. Once you own it, it's private. No one knows you have it. You don't need to turn on the lights to trade it with someone. It really is the ultimate form of wealth. You know, I think about things like, why do you want to have 10, 15 ounces in a safety deposit box or a personal safe? Because you want that as a cash component, and you hope you absolutely never have to touch it. The day you have to go to touch those 5, 10 ounces, 15 ounces of gold, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Real trouble. And I'll tell you something, if you had that in Venezuela, you don't live in Venezuela anymore. You took those ounces of gold and you got out of there, right?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
you know, those are the type of things that I think about. I think, yeah, absolutely. Giving it to family members. Who knows, right? How did I come across all this gold? I don't know. It was gifted to me. You know, I just found it in the basement one day. It's, you know, we're talking small numbers here. Obviously, a large number, you have to, it's a different story. But
in
yeah,
the backyard.
it's completely private.
Yeah.
The whole confiscation thing, you know, maybe we get there eventually. I don't know. I think that, you know, number one, you have to respect your opponent. The government has done such a good job of confiscating wealth that you didn't even know it was happening. You just paid your taxes. Oh, you confiscated your wealth. Inflation over the years, they said it was always 2%. Oh, it was more like 5 or 6. Boom, they confiscated your wealth again. So they've been doing such a good job at it that you didn't even realize it was happening. And now you're talking about getting gold, and now you're worried about confiscation. Too late. But I do think that if there's some sort of confiscation down the road, what is the purpose? I mean, I don't understand. If they get to, I think if they get to the point of that, things are already collapsing, right? They used a gold confiscation when they were on a standard.
Yeah.
Could you imagine the tyranny of going door to door trying to get people's gold? It's just not enough people own it.
Yeah.
And the people that do, this is where I have an issue with things like ETFs, right?
Yeah.
If you don't personally hold it, guess who the government would go after first? A hedge fund, an ETF, something that is in the financial system, really easy to grab. And by the way, it was never yours to begin with, right? So I think we're safe. And ultimately, I like, you know, what Lynette Zhang talks about. She's a pundit in the sphere. Yeah, she's good. She has a good thought on it, just saying that they'll offer you more money.
Yeah.
You know, think about where the price of gold would be when they finally decide that they need it. it could be $10,000 an ounce, at which point take my gold. I don't need it anymore.
See you
I
later. You
bought
got to
five
sell it at some
houses.
point.
Yeah, I bought 5 houses already. It's fine.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. And one of the things that I want to talk to you about, because people ask, so there's this big fight between crypto and gold right now, right? And there will be a place for that space. I see them as totally different. And as technology, there's a space, but a lot of people don't get that. You said, okay, they say it's decentralized, but here's another thing that people forget about. So when you look at like a Bitcoin, that everywhere that Bitcoin goes, they know exactly who had it, where it went, where it goes,
Sure.
everything. And people forget about this. They think that because it's there, that they're private. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you have to understand, I'm not anti-crypto at all. I think there's a place you can see how it would build out, but I'm like, guys, you got to understand that with gold and silver, there's different factors. There's the solid money, the background, and I'm very vocal. I hold more gold and silver, a little bit over here, because what you have to understand is this is all, you can see everything. If I have my little bit of gold and you want privacy, if this is what your goal is, because a lot of people are, like I said, I'm not giving that to my niece.
Yeah.
And it's not on a so what's your thought when, because I get really frustrated when I hear this big, and I don't even know why totally, but I hear this big banter between the two, but I'm like, they're two totally, in my space, when I look at it, separate, like they don't even come into the same category. Am I wrong at looking at that, or?
Yeah. No, you're not wrong at all. It's look at us. We're so simpatico all the time.
Because they do not, to me, they're two totally separate reasons, things. And so when I hear this, I'm like, what am I missing? What am I missing? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there like me are going, am I missing something? Because they are not even they're not even in the same building. I don't know. Maybe shed some light on it.
Definitely if you want to discuss crypto, go to a gold guy and see what their opinion is, to get the real second opinion.
Yeah.
Number one, I agree with you. Look, anything online is not private.
No,
You're plugging your information in to go through an exchange to get your coin. You're already not private.
correct.
And governments are cracking down on that in that sense. We've switched exchanges through the company because we've dabbled and stuff.
Yep.
The other thing is that understand that crypto. I don't know if this was the whole mysterious wizard of Satoshi that decided to use all of these things, but there's been so much appropriation from gold to describe this ones and zeros, which is, okay, we'll make it look like a coin. There's going to be mining, all of these little things that make you create that comparison. Maybe they did it because how do you describe what a currency is? Because ultimately, to me, a cryptocurrency is exactly that. It is a currency. It's not necessarily money. What do I mean by that?
Yeah.
Is it a store of value? And I will tell you that I'm not completely anti-crypto, but if you told me I had to put my net worth somewhere during the crash, I'm not putting my net worth in cryptocurrencies. Okay. I don't know if the internet is going to go down. I don't know if you followed the recent story in Australia where the banks got shut down, the internet went down. You're seeing internet outages all over the world. Is that where you want your
cyber outages for literally months? And I said, watch. And people are like, why? I said, the next thing's cyber. And then they're like, what? And now I get, because my community sends me so much stuff, right? I don't have to turn on the news. And it's like you said, the banks are going down. We had some stuff here, like with the hospitals, right? Look at the airlines. And that is something, you're exactly right. I'm like, if you don't hold gold and silver in your hands, like if you don't have something somewhere, like bury it somewhere so it's not on you, or I use your vaults, like, what, use the vaults if you need to. But like, I know I can, unless my car doesn't work, I can always find you and go get it. But it's like, I think if you don't have that with what's going on in the world right now, the way I see it, if you don't have gold and silver, the way Spirit always shows it to me is you're like in a rowboat without oars. I don't know how else to describe it.
Sure, I like that analogy. But even going back to what we were talking about with logistics, we'll get back into the crypto in just a
Yeah,
second. But
yeah.
have you heard the stories? Did you hear about the British Airway pilots?
Yes.
Okay, and did you hear that in the States now there's a whole bunch of airlines that aren't flying because of staffing issues?
Yeah, and I work with people all over the world, so I actually have firsthand from a lot of these organizations of people that work in them. Yes, that's all I
So
can say on air, but yes, yes.
yeah, so this is
Yes,
this is this is some potentially really, really scary stuff.
very.
And I really just hope that they come up with some sort of antidote to this vaccine, because it's
Well,
getting a
I
little scary
actually,
out there.
yeah, you know what? I believe I did. I will say to people listening on that, I did listen to a doctor a while ago talk about, but I will say before that I had chills before she was sent to me to listen to, I had actually was doing a class and I was channeling and because that's what I do. When I do my classes, I'm always channeling the energy, right? What's coming out. Like I don't even know. When I say I'm doing a class, like in July, I don't know. I tell you, a kid, I don't know what's going to come out. It's whatever comes out. And we did actually channel through that there probably would be, and that was the exact word we used, what you just said, an antidote of something that would then start to do some reversals. And then one of my community members sent me this doctor and said, hey, look at, they're working on something. So um, that's kind of interesting food for thought. We keep putting that
Yeah.
energy out there for everybody.
Yeah, I've been looking at this what is it, like an antioxidant that's out there. Apparently it was once banned, and it's amazing stuff, and they're already talking about it as one of the therapeutics for COVID. But
Yeah,
what it does is it actually destroys the spike protein. So I'm
yeah,
like, I need to find an article, because the vaccine creates the spike protein. So like, how do we protect our families?
yeah.
Because people, and this goes back to just what is so frustrating and irritating. And it's just like in the metals market, this people are being told, and they're being shuttled from one place to the other, back and forth, and just being told what to do. And it's like, why do you like just following along with people? And at what point do you step up and say, these rules are stupid?
Yeah.
Like, why I thought there's like already how many millions of people who have been vaccinated, or whatever you're calling it, in
Yeah.
the province, and yet there's still these stupid mask mandates, and none of them are. And when does the CDC come out and say, yeah, we got to be honest, these things never
We
work?
screwed up. They did. They
Like,
already came out and said that. So we're not saying anything you can't go look at. They already did. But it's very true. And this is when, when people are looking, this is when you look at what's going on in the world right now, partly, and it comes from when you're investing in precious metals or moving your money or what's going on in the world. What people are forgetting is because we've been called to wake up for many years. I've been on this path for 18 years. So you can imagine how crazy I was called 18 years ago, but I'm not dead because of it. So,
oh, well, you
and
were you were clearly looking into 9/11 at that
oh,
point,
oh
for
yeah,
sure.
I was like 18 years ago, guys. I was like, but I can tell you that I have a better story on that one because I worked in film and television when that happened. So I can tell you, I was going, something isn't right here. We blow buildings up for a reason, but I don't want to go there. But it's very interesting because when you look at the world and we say waking up or critical thinking or critical feeling, which is so important, and partly what is going on in the world is exactly that, like for people to where's your breaking point that you've had enough pressure? Is it, unfortunately, I said this the other day, is it going to take many children to have to leave earth and go off world? Is that what's really going to take people to wake up and say, wait a minute? Is it going to take somebody in your family? Like we have people in our community where they've lost parents and they tell people, oh, that's you. Not in our community, they don't say that, but they tell outside people, oh, that's just your family, hasn't touched me. This is the problem with society is well, that's somebody else's, it didn't touch me. So just because you didn't lose a loved one or just because you didn't doesn't mean it's not touching you in some way. And when we look at the financial system, I really energetically, timing can always change, but I keep saying, and this is why with gold and so important right now, guys, is I keep saying, I don't know, they can move the times around. I will be floored if we haven't seen some sort of financial major crash or correction before January of next year, I would be floored. Now I could be wrong. They can move it. They keep sustaining it. I'm like,
Yeah.
energetically, it's already blown up. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like when this stuff happened last year, I'm like, this is weird. There's no life force energy to it. It's not like there's nothing there. Like I had a hard time wrapping my head around it because I'm like, I'm feeling crazier because energetically it's not ringing any truth. So then we see why. But that's the same thing in the markets because I look and I'm like, this shouldn't be. It's like holding up by I don't even know if it's like a spider web anymore. Like it's like so thin. I'm like, there's nothing there.
It really is. The curtain has been completely pulled back on the wizard. You know, how sick of you are watching, you know, these leftists talk about things and accuse conservatives of the things that they're doing. I listen, I've known a sociopath. I've worked with one.
Wow.
And I got to see firsthand how charming and how the detective, okay, in the case, he
Yeah.
said these people prey on you'd be surprised, they're like dogs. They sniff out weakness,
Yeah.
and that's who they go after. And so you can kind of see in society the people who are falling prey and victim to this, who can't. I mean, look, the ratings have dropped everywhere, so people are just happy to go back onto Netflix and watch a movie. But the more people can realize, you know what, I'm going to go and do my own research, metals are going to go to the roof.
Yeah.
It's going to reach a point where it doesn't really matter what the price is.
Yeah.
It's not that it does kind of eventually become priceless, in the sense that the price will be going high so far, so fast, that it'll feel like the lumber that you saw recently. That's sort of a prelude to this, which is that,
Yeah.
you know, I'll take myself for an example. If the price of silver is jumping up $10 a day, why do I need to sell it? And
Yeah.
so what ends up happening in that scenario is we've got our heads down. We're just putting through orders. The only people who are selling are people who really need to sell. They're not looking to say, oh, this sucks, this market sucks, I'm out of here. It's
No.
just, you know, for whatever reason, they need the funds. I've seen a couple people move out to say, look, I'm going to sell off a portion to get into some mining stocks. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. But yeah, eventually this thing's going to take off, and I'm just going to be, I got as many people into boats as possible,
Yeah.
and let's see where this eventually goes. Look, gold is money. It takes effort, blood, sweat, and tears to pull it out of the ground. Once it's been pulled out of the ground, that energy can be molded into other things, and it's immutable. It just stays there. It doesn't disappear. It doesn't erode. They're pulling out coins from, you know, Syrian coins from, 800,000 years ago.
They go to the bottom
That
of the
is,
ocean to find treasures that are
yeah.
still sitting
I mean,
there.
that is fully tested. That is fully tested. So getting back to the crypto thing, we have to understand the difference between a currency and money. All right. So during the Depression, I know this might sound strange because there was no internet, but people came up with their own currencies. And that's actually what helped a lot of people get out of the Depression, whether it was cigarettes or they create, literally on paper, they'd create their own currencies. And so this is no different. But we have to understand that, yeah, currencies have to be backed up by something in order to give them value. One of the difficulties I have with crypto, and I'll give a bit of a nugget here, if I may, is yes, there's a limit. Okay, there's a limit of Bitcoins in the world, but there is an unlimited amount of decimal places. So even if crypto goes to $500,000 a unit, you can still throw $100 in.
You can. And you know what I was saying to people too is what you still need to be mindful of that I think people have forgotten. And I always am telling people this. We are, the way I see it energetically in the crypto world is it's fascinating to look at, but we're in the, Spirit always equates it to me like we're in the internet phase. Remember when the internet came out? So
Yeah,
I said,
I
I don't
do.
know if Bitcoin's gonna, yeah, you and I remember, right? Because
Yeah,
we at least had a normal life because there was no
yeah.
internet when we went to school, right? It's
Oh
like,
my gosh, that first internet cafe was amazing.
I know.
Netscape.
Yeah, and then we had one kid in the I always love it. I remember that one boy in the computer lab with one big old clunky, and we're like, what a nerd. We're going outside to play with our friends. You know, you're
Oh my
nice.
gosh, my roommate in university had a modem. It was like, that sound it would make. We were like, what? This guy's got it all set up. Yeah,
I know, we were like, what nerds? We got a party to go to. Like, meanwhile,
yeah.
those nerds, who knows where they are today. We used to call them nerds. I guess I'm not allowed to say that anymore. You're not allowed to say anything anymore. But back then that was our generation. It's what we did. But I said, I do say this a lot, and it is on record. So people who follow me know I said, as much as you're there, still be mindful. It is like Bitcoin could still end up being like the Netscape. We don't know. Like, this is remember there was like millions of providers and people here and there. I said, there's a huge consolidation that has to happen, and it's going to happen. It's a matter of when and what time. So again, it's that research. So I have to tell you this, you don't know this, because just recently, so that I just bought some product from you. I said, oh, just buy that product. Well, what Jeremy doesn't know is actually I had a dream that was all about change again in the financial markets. And then I was like, I woke up and I heard, you need to, because I dollar cost average, right? You know that I dollar
Yeah.
cost average. So I was like, oh, you need to buy some more. And I was like, and it was so clear in this dream. And I get a lot of messages in my dream. I woke up and I was like, okay. And I was doing my day. And then all of a sudden I heard like, message him now. Like, I think I sent you the message on the weekend because I heard like
Yeah.
message him right now. And so it was like Saturday or Sunday or whatever. And I'm like, oh, Jamie, you need to do this order for me. I'm like, and it was just because it was so strong. And when I get stuff that's that strong, I'm like, I pay attention. Like, I've learned, I got chills. I've learned I do not discount when I just do it, as much as I don't understand even sometimes like why I'm doing something. I know there's a reason. I find out later. And so that always tells me too that we're in this crunch. And I don't know, I get gold is insurance and stuff like that. But I really, and I love it for jewelry. Like, I'm not a big silverware. I have some silver, but I have, I like the gold stuff. But I don't know, I just like it better.
Yeah, it feels nice.
I know. Sometimes I have like three
It's
little
warm.
chains, trying to be a rapper or something. I have like four gold bracelets on. I'm like, yeah, I took them off to just have a reprieve. But I love the energy of silver, and I love it. And I love because I really believe that we are going to be moving into some really cool medical advancements and technology that we are going to see in our lifetime, which you need that for. And I just hope people listening to that, I hope you just wake up and stop listening to this mainstream narrative. Like, you gotta stop. Like, it's like what you and I were saying. It's everything is just distraction, distraction. And now let's pit people against people. And we're gonna pit currencies against currencies, and we're pitting people and don't like them. And like, even in our country, like what our guy is doing, and I've seen it around the world, but I read something the other day. He wants to send white men to reform camp about racism or something. I'm like, what is happening here? We do not, in our country, people really do love each other.
They really do. It's so obvious. And
Oh my
and
God.
personally, I really do hate that this is being thrust upon us. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll tell you just a very quick anecdote, okay?
Wow.
My wife and I love watching Naked and Afraid.
Oh yes, that's a great show.
I just love it. It's like,
That one
they're
alone.
crazy. They got to find water. They got to hunt, whatever.
Yeah.
So they're doing this like all-star one, and they've got this guy, and he comes on, and he's like, yeah, I'm like really excited to be the first Black man, buddy. Like, that was the absolute furthest thing from my mind. The only thing I remember is that you were a fan, and you were a snowboarder, and like you were a cool guy on this whole show. What did that have to do with anything? Like, a producer must have told him to say that. No one thinks about that type of stuff. And that's actually a big problem, because, you've probably been reading about BlackRock and how much BlackRock has been buying. And so you want to go back to precious metals? Let's get back to precious metals. This distortion of money printing, okay? has put so much money into the hands of the few and the few corporations,
Oh,
and what
100%.
they're doing with that money now, like whether it's BlackRock buying houses and outbidding people in those neighborhoods, that's got to be illegal in some way, but they're doing it. So now they're taking over all the media. So the media, it doesn't matter what you watch. It doesn't matter what movie you're watching on Disney or anything. This is all being done through the board members that are on BlackRock and other major huge banks. And this is all done, all provided by the Fed. They
Well, there's
printed the
also,
money.
you know what? You are 100% right. But you can also see, and this is where I get hope. For 50 years, there's been so many people working to change these systems, probably more than 50 years. Something is happening, you can see under these banking institutions, and you can see it where something's almost being rebuilt. And the only thing that I can grab onto that sometimes to give me that trust and that no is that these systems, if we all really wake up, can replace these systems. But people have to wake up.
Okay.
And that's where I see gold coming in as a big part of that energetically, because just because they've been there forever controlling everything doesn't mean they're going to continue moving forward, but they're trying really hard. We see it. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow. I'm not saying that at all. It could take another 1 month. It could take another 10 years. Right. But if that happens, then you will need, if that, there's something going on there, you will need gold. You will need it to stabilize it, because however they move it, I'm not talking gold back system, but you will need it to create more stability moving forward. So you're not going to be able to, they can't lend like they used to, right? Just lend on whatever and print more.
Yeah.
They'll have to start to revert back to these systems. I don't even know if the public will know what's happening.
Well, I think, what you're tapping into there is sort of the, a lot of what we're seeing right now is the whole breakdown of the global banking system, and that it's already reached its conclusion. That was 2008. It already died in 2008. They've kept it going. How do you know they've kept the patient alive? Because they lowered interest rates to zero and kept printing money. They
raise them.
Yeah, they couldn't even talk their way out of tapering. The market would crater. So everyone, and this is like such a bad relationship, like a spoiled kid, right? Every person running a stock portfolio knows the Fed has your back. The Fed absolutely has they're not going to let this fall unless they actually really want it to. And it has happened in the past. The first central bank was run by this guy Biddle. And when Jackson was going around the country saying central bank sucks, this guy pulled all the money out and blamed it on Jackson. So it is possible that they can do that. But that's end game type of stuff. You're already lost.
That is end
right?
game. That is done.
Yeah, that's flipping the chessboard over and saying we're done with this. And you can see this move towards, this great reset. If you follow people like Catherine Austin Fitz, she's talking about transhumanism. When you see people with, magnetized to this vaccine and issues when they're close to 5G towers. Look, I'm not wearing the tinfoil hat. I'm just telling you, I've heard some of these stories.
Well, hey, I'll tell you something a little weird. People want something a little different. You ever seen the Netflix show Sweet Tooth?
No.
Watch it. Okay. It has a spin, but I sent it to somebody I know to watch it who's in the States. And they said, well, isn't this creepy? So they sent me back a bill that was just passed in the US Senate for billions of dollars of hybrid experimental between humans and animals.
Yeah. Well,
that's what the show is about. That's
exactly listen, yeah. So they're planting the seeds, right? Yeah. This idea of like the transhumanism, I think that does go along with the Great Reset, because the Great Reset says we're going to fix the problems that we had with the independence of this system of the last one. We want to make sure that everyone knows who they are and where they belong. Gold is freedom. Gold stands in the way of inflation. Gold is the ultimate protection. Do you want to have your money in the bank when this crisis hits. And what are they going to do? They will shut off. I know I'm going a little deep and dark here, but we've seen it. They shut off the internet. When I heard about what's happening in Australia, imagine going on to your phone, trying to open up the app for your bank and nothing works. And that's it. You go down to the bank and the ATM machine doesn't work. Now, will it happen? I don't know. Has it happened? Absolutely. Listen, if it can happen in Australia, it can happen here.
It happened to me not too long ago. The bank I was with, which was a big bank, I actually went on and it said none of my balances were available.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
what it said. None. I was like, what? And I took a minute and I looked and I'm like, okay. And then there was no warning. It just said none of your balances are available. And I was like,
Yeah.
it's one of our big five. And I took a breath. I'm like, okay, let me just see. So I waited about an hour or so and I was able to go back and then the balances were there. So clear. But I will say, I do take screenshots every once in a while.
Good. So you have on the one hand, you have this globalist great reset, and you see the G7, all of those guys are all totally signed on, they signed with their blood on all of that.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, you have, the quantum financial system, this Nasera, Jacera, this, that the light will win. You will have a gold back something. It may not be fully gold back, but something has to give credibility back. And understand the central bankers, the way it worked is the central bankers just said, look, and Greenspan said it. He said, what we're doing is we're providing the discipline that gold had.
Yeah.
Okay, well then what do I need you for?
Yeah.
Just put the gold in place and go get another job, so that's what will essentially happen. I think you have to just understand what real wealth is, what real money is, what will be there through the test of time. There's a lot of cliches here, but it's totally true. These are hard assets. They're in the real world. There's a minute amount of them. People are clamoring for it. You should have some in your portfolio, enough to feel safe to do other things. Cryptos are great. Have fun. Who knows what is going to come from them? Could it go to 300,000? Man, if you're getting in now and it goes to 300,000, fantastic. The beautiful thing about it is it has no innate value. Pardon me, don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but it has literally no innate value. Only the value that people on the network give it. Right? So it can never be undervalued. It can never be overvalued. It's only valued on the amount of people on the network actually believing in it.
You don't want to give me $1 million for my pen? It has my name on it. Come on. No, I'm just kidding. But that's what it's like, right?
One day.
One day. I would like to know, what do you, supplies are still hard to get, aren't they? Like the supplies of gold and silver, like you can get them, but it's not like was a long time ago, is it?
It's definitely eased up a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm noticing the premiums are coming down slightly. So I think we're in a really good place. I really feel like, okay, look, the prices have come down a bit. Yeah. Premiums are a little bit less. They're still way higher than they used to be. I mean, you used to be able to buy a 100-ounce bar of silver for like $1.30 over spot. It's still $4 over spot, but it's not $5 over spot. So it's come down a little bit. It's still saying that this mid-20 range is way too cheap. It's way, way, way too cheap. So if you're paying a higher premium in this mid-$20 range, so be it. This is a gift. This is the ability to keep buying at these low prices, because you're going to wake up one day, and just like we ran from 18 to 31, you're going to wake up, price of silver just went to $35 overnight. What am I supposed to do? It's up 80 cents in a single day. What are you going to do? Complain to me that my premiums are too high, that I can compete a little bit better than the next guy? It's like, well, where were you 6 months ago when you could have bought it much cheaper? Don't procrastinate. Don't be the person, last in line at the Shoppers Drug Mart trying to get to an empty shelf of toilet paper. There's just no point. There's no point. You've learned. You should know now. You should absolutely know now,
Yeah.
So, and when I see people walking home with toilet paper under their arm, I'm always like, yeah, I don't know. mean,
You always have a hose, you
there's an
got
app for
leaves
that.
outside, you got all these other things, I was at the farm, I think I'm like, look at all these leaves, you got
Yeah.
you got lots of things you can use if you need to.
Oh, you've been watching Naked and Afraid.
Yes, exactly. Or Alone. We really like that show Alone.
Oh yeah. I've heard. I know.
We're like,
I've
oh, that one's
heard about
going
that.
first, so that one will stay. Hey, you got to have some fun with it, right? Where you're sort of looking, and we'll be ready for when that happens. Now, I know we're already getting to the top of the hour, so I just want to make sure everybody knows, because you can handle people for gold and silver all over the world. Guildhall can do that, correct? So
Yeah.
yeah, and then you in Canada. Now, Canada, I know you do the RSBs and the TFSAs because I hold them with you. But what about other countries when it comes to their?
Yeah, we can assist with the IRAs in the
Okay.
States. And what would happen is it works a bit different in the States than in Canada, but we set you up with an IRA provider, and then we sell you the precious metal, and then it's within that system. It's actually probably an easier system there, a more
Sure.
competitive system.
Yeah.
Here, with for us at Guildhall, it is all about direct ownership of the metal.
Yes.
I understand that it's great that these ETFs that are out there have physical backing it, and that you can trust that the physical's there, but you don't own it.
Yeah.
You can't take delivery of that. You're sharing your 300 ounces of silver with someone else because this fund or this ETF has 1,000 ounce bars,
Yeah.
right? So if you decide you want to take delivery, what are you doing? You have to sell off, convert, pay the premiums, and then have it delivered, right? That's not what you're looking for. Same thing with pool accounts. You're sharing the product. It's not really yours. If you want it, you have to convert it. None of this makes sense. And then there's like digital gold, where again, it's stored on a one-to-one basis, meaning, yeah, there's an ounce of gold out there somewhere, but it's not yours, it's the company's. And they're just making sure that they balance 1 ounce of gold on their books for their customer who's bought 1 ounce of gold, right? I mean, this again, what is the point? I don't understand. If you're going to buy physical precious metals, own it.
Yeah.
Have
Yeah.
it,
For sure.
know that those are your serial numbers. That's my product. If I want to, we have people all the time, they'll call, they'll wonder about, well, how do I take delivery? How does it work? Well, it's easy. A letter of direction, pay your withholding tax, and you could just get your metal, right? RIF accounts at the end of the year, people take delivery of their gold instead of taking the cash out of their RIF. So there's all these different things. I personally like knowing that this is my physical product, whether you take it home, whether you store it in a vault, and whether you put it in a registered account where it's stored in a vault, it's yours. This seems to be the easiest thing. And by the way, it doesn't cost any more. This is the part that boggles my mind. It doesn't cost anymore. I think really the only thing stopping people is they just don't know that they could do it.
Yeah, and understanding. So where can they find you if they want to understand more?
Well, my cell number, no, Guildhall,
I say brave man.
guildhallwealth.com. Yeah. It's just go to guildhallwealth.com, sign up, and we've got a newsletter. We don't send it out all that often. We don't want to, bother people, but you can definitely sign up, and we'll contact you and let you know what we can do.
And I highly recommend you sign up. Great stuff when you do. But I actually, if you missed your radio show on 640, then you can just go to the YouTube and watch it again. And a lot of times I like to do that. Like, so if I'm cutting the grass or whatever, I put in my headphones and I go and listen to the show after, and great information and a great way to get knowledgeable. So I can't thank you enough for coming today again and taking time out of your busy schedule. We could have our shows could go on forever, you and I, so much to talk about.
I
And
know we don't even really talk about gold all that much, but
I
it really does
know.
all end up. It really does all kind of culminate to what all of these things that are going on. So why aren't you holding this?
Well, and like I said, it's wake up, critical think, critical feel, never feel pressured. Your inner knowing when you start using it will always guide you in the right direction, no matter what the masses are doing. But when you unplug, you'll start to realize it's a little bit, it's a rabbit hole, but at the same time, there's freedom. There's a lot of freedom. And I think that's what I love about gold and silver too, is it gives you, I sleep better at night. I feel like I have freedom and choices in different ways. So Thank you. And
Thank
thank
you.
you to all of you for tuning in. Join me on Telegram if you want. You go to tracylclark.com and there's a link on the bottom for Telegram. And for more of your healthy, wealthy, and wise, which is a lot of what Jeremy and I were discussing, hence why that event on July 14th is around your health things happening, and never, ever get discouraged. There's always a solution, a creative solution, if you're wondering for something new to come out. Now, I will not see you guys for a couple of weeks. I'm taking a little bit of a hiatus so you can enjoy some of our new guests and guests that we have for you that will be coming on air. While I take a little bit of a breather, look at the last 6 months so I can come back and serve you better. So many blessings, and we'll see you again soon.
Thank you for listening to the Tracy L Clark Show with me, Tracy L, where I teach you how to connect to the God consciousness so you can unlock your superpowers and connect at light speed and live your extraordinary life. Tune in every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio, where together we will unlock the secrets of your body and your life. As the founder of the Body Regeneration Academy, I, Tracy L, will provide you with the insight and simple tools you can apply right now in your life to move you forward and leave the past in the dust. To join the Body Regeneration TLC Online Academy, make sure you check me out at tracylclark.com.